and get out at a good time. But we'll get started. So we're going to first, this year, it was awesome because I think for the past 2 years, it's been just Corinne and Lydia in our elementary schools. And this year, we were able to add this half of our arc to all go into the elementary schools. So it was really cool to be able to see that impact and have more of an impact there. So we're going to enjoy stories from the elementary school, and then this side of my arc is a high school, so then we'll break off into that. So they have their order. They'll just keep handing it down. You won't have to listen to me for a little while, and I'll let them share.
Good morning. As many of you know, my name is Lydia Carroll, and I've had the pleasure of working in Honduras for the past 2 trips. So this morning, I'll be sharing with you what a day at the elementary school looked like and a fun story about one of our lessons. So this year, the elementary group for week 2 split and went into two separate groups and went into 2 separate schools for the first 2 days. I know it's a lot of 2s. And then for the second 2 days, the 2 groups came together at the Cuba school since it's so large. So I'm going to go through the schedule of what our day looked like. To start off our morning, we would arrive at the schools at approximately 8:30 a.m. And from 9 to 9:30, we would have introductions and songs like the ones we sang this morning. After songs, we transitioned to lesson times for first through 3rd grade from 9:30 to 10:15. This was different from what we've done in the previous years. Typically, we split the kids into different grades and classrooms, but this year we combined 3 grades for lesson time and taught in the pavilion where we sang. And then during this time, 4th through 6th graders were participating in crafts and games in their separate classrooms. After this, the kids got a morning break from 10:15 to 10:45. In this time, they participated in games like volleyball, frisbee, soccer, chalk art, bubbles, and nail painting. Then we moved into the second part of our morning, which consisted of simply swapping activities. So 4th through 6th graders did their lesson in the pavilion, while 1st through 3rd grades did crafts and games. This was from 10:45 to 11:30. After that, we had another praise and worship time from 11:30 to 12 o'clock, and sometimes doing activities such as skits at this time. And then at 12 o'clock, we had an hour for lunch and recess. And then we started back up at 1 to continue the afternoon program, which was a repeat of the morning, and we finished up at 4. Our ministry at the schools was done for the day, and we departed for the hotel. So now that you know a bit about the structure of our days at the school, I have a quick story I'd like to share about one of my personal favorite lessons of the week. So we were at the second school, the Cuba school I mentioned earlier, and it was the afternoon we were doing lesson 2. Lesson 1 that morning had been fine, except the kids tended to get distracted and whisper to each other. In the pavilion we were teaching, there was a wall around the whole area that was about like 3 feet high, but then on the right-hand side, there was a really tall wall with like bleachers up to the top. And the kids that were on the top could see over the wall, and they kept getting distracted because there was kids like running around who got out early or were on a bathroom break, and they were all just like peeking over the wall and whispering to each other. So what I noticed after our post-lunch praise and worship, when the interpreter announced that it was time for class, there was like a collective groan from all the kids. They were like, no, class time. And I was like, I don't want this to be the case. I want them to be as excited about the lessons as I am. And so for lesson 2, I decided to get them up and moving. Since we had so many helpers working together, this is the only lesson I'd be able to teach at the Cuba school, so I decided to make it a memorable one. Lesson 2 was the story of Elijah and the prophets of Baal when they had the contest to see which God would answer when they called down fire from heaven. So I got all the students on one side of the pavilion to sit down in front of an altar that the interpreters and Corinne and I constructed out of cups that we'd used from a game earlier that day. In the altar, we tied up a stuffed bull, and we did likewise for an altar across the room where Elijah, a.k.a. Ivy, was all alone. Then I told the students about the prophets of Baal and how they had tried to call down fire from heaven for 24 hours straight, and nothing happened. And then Corinne got a bunch of water bottles and pretended to dump them on Elijah's altar. And then Elijah prayed, and after a single prayer, God sent fire down from heaven. 2 interpreters ran over with Elijah's altar and waved big sheets of red, yellow, and orange tissue paper and then threw them into the altar. All the kids got so excited. They were oohing and aahing. But I wanted them to take something away from the story that they could apply to themselves, and not just have this be some random fun story that they were going to hear about and then forget about. And it didn't apply to them right here, right now. So I explained how today we must choose between solving false gods, which can look like money, fame, power, beauty, or even phones, or serving the one true God. And to give them a physical way to do that, our interpreter, Sabos, who is, by the way, absolutely incredible, told the kids to go on the side of the pavilion with the God that they wanted to follow. And there was an instant stampede of kids that they ran over to Elijah's side. They were so excited that I had to jump up on the wall to get their attention again and shout to finish the lesson. And guess what? Next time the kids were told it was lesson time, I didn't hear any complaining. So that was a special memory I made on this trip. And I think that we can all take something away from this and learn from these kids. Jesus said in Matthew 18:3, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. And in this verse, in the verse after that, it talks about one of the attributes in children that Christ is referring to. It says to humble yourself. And when I read that, my mind immediately goes to the analogy of a servant or a student, eager to learn and acknowledging that they don't know everything. My point is simply that we can learn from and be encouraged by these kids' eagerness and enthusiasm to learn from the Word of God. Thank you.
Okay, so I was thankful enough this is my third year going, and I was teaching with Lydia again, which was so much fun. We were able to teach third grade, and as Lydia said, we were teaching first through third grade all together, and preparing, was a little scared because having like 60 to 100 kids at one time teaching and trying to keep their attention is really hard. And I was praying about it, and I'm like, Lord, please help them like actually listen to what we're saying and take something away from it. And it was such an answer to prayer that they all paid attention, well, after our really fun lesson. And we just had a ton of hands, and everyone just jumped in even without being told or anything, and the interpreters are just so great. So Lydia and I, on Monday and Tuesday, we split into two schools, like Lydia said. We went to Los Marios. I went to this school my first year 2 years ago and taught second grade. And I was lucky enough to have kids from my class remember who I was, and I got to reconnect with them, which was super cool. I really enjoyed that, hanging out with them again. Our class was smaller than we expected. We were supposed to have like 25, but we had like 16, 19-ish. But it was also really nice because we were able to help them easier with only 3 of us in the classroom for crafts and stuff. It was just a lot easier. And then there was this one girl. I really enjoyed like making relationships with them. I loved the lessons, but also the relationships that we're able to build with them. And this one girl, Gabriella, and I just really hung out a lot together. Like, she would always come find me at recess and during playing time, and I just really enjoyed spending time with her. But during recess, Lady and I Abigail and I mainly played volleyball, which was so much fun and also so interesting. Because you would think that, like, it's volleyball. You'd play the same way in America that you do in Honduras. But you don't. They play with their feet a lot because, they're more soccer people. But it was just really cool to see how differently they played. I mean, Abigail and I knew our spots. We were always the setters because they were the hitters, and that was our job. And it's kind of funny because I started playing like them while I was there, and now I'm trying to come back, and I have volleyball starting tomorrow. And so I'm trying to switch back over to American volleyball. Little bit tricky, but we're getting there. It's fine. But when we weren't playing volleyball, Lydia and I were giving piggyback rides, and we were racing. That was tiring. They were just like 5 people would run up to you and want their turn for their piggyback ride, and I'm like, I can only choose one at a time because I'm one person. So just getting to love them like that and getting to spend that quality time with them was just one of my favorite parts. So I just wanted to talk about one more thing at Cuba, which was the second school they went to on Wednesday and Thursday. We hadn't done this before, but we did kind of like a cultural exchange. So during the recess time, we would take turns playing like American music to dance to, and then Honduran. So we'd give them like the church clap, the Cana Joe, like really American songs. And then we were able to learn some Honduran dances, which don't have them perfected at all, because they're very different than American. But we got the hang of it. It's fine. No demonstrations. But at Pedro Nufio with Ivy and Sadie, when in one of the songs of Laba, there's a little like dance break, and so they came up with an idea with one of our like really good friends, Net, one of the interpreters. They started Cotton Joeing in the middle of it, and the kids loved it. So whenever we went to Republica de Cuba, the second school, they were like, "You guys didn't do the Cotton Joe during the Laba dance?" We were like, "No." And so we just decided to do it, and now it was like their favorite thing. Like we got to teach them so much and spend even more time teaching them. Like they'd stay after they were dismissed for lunch during the Cotton Eye Joe, and it was just so cool. And they actually got the hang of it, and you could see it in their eyes that they were like so happy to learn an American dance. And it was just such a cool experience, and I can't wait to see what God has in store for us next year.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about a little bit what happened in this first school I was on Monday and Tuesday. It was called Pedro Nufio. And so you know all about what Corinne was doing at her school, but over at Pedro Nufio, we had a chalk war, and it was a lot of fun. So I guess the kids don't usually get to play with lots of chalk and don't have that. And it was a really cool experience to see them having so much fun with it and like drawing. Like we got a whole bin of chalk out, and some of us leaders, me and Sadie, started drawing all over the floor, and they were like, "This is so cool." And they came and like drew a bunch of pictures next to us, and then they like started rubbing their hands in it and got it all over everyone, and it was so much fun. The kids, I also had like two little girls that like to follow me around that were in my class. I taught third grade, and that was just really cool that I had little buddies. And my translator was Sebas at the first school, and it was super fun working with him. He was incredible. And I also got to know a bunch of the other translators too. There was Annette and Marina, Benjamin, so many people, and they tried to teach me Spanish, and I had a lot of fun with them, getting to know them better that whole week. This was my first time, if you didn't know, and I feel like I got a lot of God's word spread in the 4 days that we were in Honduras, and I just thought that was really cool. Like, I wasn't expecting anything, but I really enjoyed it, and I don't know if I'll go back next year, but we'll see what the Lord has planned.
Hello, my name is Sadie, and on our trip to Honduras, I was with the elementary team. So this was both my first time out of the country, as well as my first time on a mission trip. So I was super excited, but also a little nervous, especially after hearing about the crazy experience the team went through last year, what with the sickness and getting stranded in Miami. But the trip went so well this year, and I'm so glad I got to be a part of it. I had such an amazing time being with the kids and seeing how beautiful the Honduras is. I also got to know some of the team members better, which was really amazing. I'm so much closer to them now, and I'm so glad that it was them I got to spend that amazing and chaotic week with. So what really stood out to me was the kids' love for us. They would give us flowers to put in our hair all the time, and we would have chalk wars with them. And by the end, they were just rubbing the chalk on their hands and rubbing it all over their clothes and their faces. the older kids would ask to take pictures with us, and when they would come back from lunch, they would give us candy and bracelets and pictures that they drew. They would just love on us so much. They were always hugging us and smiling at us. And at one of the schools, the second one, Cuba, the girls would teach us the dances, like she said, and it was just really fun learning how they dance because it's so much different than how we would. And then at Pedro Nufio, we would play with the chalk at recess, and it was so fun, but it got so messy, and by the end, we just had to go wash it all off, and it was so much chalk everywhere. So the kids' love just really stood out to me, and to me, it's very easy to feel like I don't deserve their love, because I haven't done that much with them. I've played games with them and taught them lessons, but nothing to me deserves the kind of love that they showed us. And then I realized that they were showing us Christ's love. We don't deserve his love, but he gives it to us freely anyway.
So the vacation Bible school type stuff we did, where we're up doing songs and dancing, is not really what I'm comfortable with. So luckily, I had this team at the elementary school who carried me through it, humbled me a little bit watching how committed they were to it. They really cared for those kids, and seeing how committed they were to loving these kids they just met, to interacting with them, to showing them God's love, for caring for somebody they just met, was awesome to see. It was great to see how much they wanted to interact with these kids they didn't know, to show them how much they cared for them and how much God cared for them through them. And seeing the response from the kids, you could tell that that message was given to them, that Jesus loves them, and he showed them he loved them through our kids, which it was awesome to see. If there was nothing else in that trip, that made it worth it, just to see God's love carried out through the people who put the time in to go. So.
Buenos días, ¿cómo está? Philip Sherbakov, good morning. I swear I did go on the trip. Like, I'm not a fake with my lack of a shirt. It was a lot of fun. I learned so much more this week, this year. Like, one of my favorite things about the trip was watching the other teachers, and some of them were like actual teachers that have taught for years, and like learning what they do to make the lessons more interesting, bring more fun, bring more like quiet when we need to be quiet. And so like kind of just throughout the week I was picking up all these strategies, and like there's the smallest things can be so fun for the kids. And as Quay, there was a youth pastor from West Shore that came with us. And one of the points he brought out was like, one of the reasons that we bring the fun is so that to build the relationship, and then we can share the gospel and get a little closer with them. It's like they both help each other. And so one of my goals ended up being creating a lot of fun for the kids. One of the first things we did at the first school was like in between classes, we had like 30, 40 minutes of recess. So I had the kids sweep up the classroom, bring all the chairs to the edges, and we had a trash can. And I'm tall, but I don't know the first thing about basketball. But I knew enough to like draw a line in a little court, and that you have to dribble it to the other side to switch, like it's a half court. You have to switch it to the other side to regain possession. And so with them, we played basketball. They had so much fun. Another thing we did was during one of the dances at the first school, there's a lot of the teens that like dancing is not cool, and it's like they collectively agree that the dancing is not cool. And so I was able to teach them. It's like I want to do. It's like one of these, like a Russian dance, and like you could get as low as you can, and they had so much fun. I was getting all the teens doing it in a line, like holding hands. And then for one of the songs, you're like going like this, and then like a slap, and I show them like, it was difficult to explain what I was trying to do, but like now it becomes the people where like everybody goes out and then there's like a slam. It got a little dangerous. Yep. Was that everything? Yeah, that was everything.
So yeah, I am thankful for Faris. Faris is the first parent that has come with me on these trips. So bless his heart, he stepped out of his comfort zone. And Philip had the unique experience too, because last year he was with the high school team, and so he got to see the high school, but then he also got to see the kids side of it. So it's kind of neat. People are stretching themselves and going. So now high school. We're going to kind of go by the grades we taught. So in Honduras, you do not require to go to school past 9th grade. So the kids that come, blown away, but these kids are teaching Bible lessons to 100 plus kids, trying to keep them quiet. And we're in high school, so we have smaller classes. So I think even Isaiah's class was 8 kids this year. But we get deep into everything. So that is where it's really cool to have it. So we're going to start with 10th grade, whoever taught 10th grade classes. Noah and Rebecca taught 10th grade. Alessia could not be here, and she taught 10th grade with Rebecca, so Isaiah has something to share. Then Isaiah is going to 11th grade, and then Elsa and Arabelle taught 12th grade. So we'll kind of go youngest and oldest. So go ahead.
All right, good morning, everyone. The cool thing I'm going to teach or talk about today is the team aspect of everything. I played sports basically my entire life. I really enjoy team sports, never a big fan of the individual sports. But I just graduated high school, and one of the main things I've missed is being a part of a team with a common goal, working together to accomplish that. Everyone with their strengths and weaknesses working together to accomplish that. And it's been a couple months. I haven't fully had that. No sports, no nothing. Unfortunately, at the moment, I'm not playing any sports in college or anything like that. So it's been a missing part in my day-to-day life since it was literally every day for so long. But coming into the mission trip, I was introduced to a new team, as you can see them here. And that was a really cool aspect of my trip. Every single one of us has our own strengths and weaknesses, and we are able to use those to accomplish the goal that God had given us. Some really cool parts of that were I had the opportunity to go on a Honduras missions trip when I was in middle school and whatnot. And yeah, I had a chance to go on a Honduras mission trip, but I chose instead to go to Dominican Republic. There was 2 different trips. The Honduras trip was very nerve-wracking for me and whatnot. I don't like standing in front of a group of people. It's not one of my strong suits. Never been fully good at it. But the Dominican trip allowed us to all do more of a VBS type thing. We're all in front, all teaching, all doing whatever. So I got that experience as a kid. But then it came around again where we started doing high school trips and stuff. And after last year, my friend Judah went on the trip, and he had a really cool experience. And I saw him for the first time after he got back, and he says, "You're coming with me." So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm coming with him. So this year, I came and got to do that. And I can safely say I was pretty nervous. It was that added along with a lot of stress and stuff that I've been going through here between work and trying to figure out colleges and whatnot. And my mind was kind of jumbled and scrambled before I came to Honduras, leaving me not a lot of time to fully figure out what we were doing with teaching or things like that. And so already teaching was a stressful thing for me. And then added on to the unpreparedness of it, I was kind of losing my mind a little bit. But I was very blessed to have a room with Mr. Fisher here and my friend Judah. And it was really cool the conversations I got to have, especially one of Mr. Fisher. He allowed me to just kind of dump all the stress and stuff out of my head and kind of talk me through it and whatnot, which is a really cool experience I had, and allowed me to refocus myself on those lessons and whatnot. So we're going to go for that. My classroom in specific, I taught 10th grade students, and it was really cool, not only just the big team we had with everyone being able to have things, but the small team that we had there. I was partnered with my friend Judah, and we had a interpreter named Genesis. And you could just see God's work in giving us this interpreter. She worked really well with us. She had a knack for controlling the classroom, making sure kids weren't yelling or doing dumb stuff the whole time. But really teaching or making sure that we were able to teach our lessons or play the games we wanted or things like that. We could very easily explain the game to her in like 2 or 3 minutes, and then she would go off and just explain the entire game, run the entire game for us, even though she only learned it 5 minutes ago. And that was really cool that she was able to do that. And the other really cool thing that she did was we would go throughout our lessons, and we would try to get an idea across. And it's always the thing, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard this before, you say one thing, like a single sentence, and they're going off for like 5 minutes on a different thing, and you're kind of wondering what's happening, but it's them explaining it in a way that the kids will understand with their cultural context and their ways of looking at different things. And it was that part that was really cool. As I said, team, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. Judah's strength, luckily, was teaching. Even throughout school, I went to school with him, graduated with him, all that. It was very cool to see his skills from school and presentation and stuff transfer to the classroom in Honduras. He's a very natural teacher, very engaging and whatnot. He's able to formulate lessons and stuff in his head as we go along, which is really cool. So we went off script a lot, not following the exact lesson plans we had, but we would, the night before, go over and make sure we had all of our stuff planned out, and he would kind of lay out a lesson and would help me have my part figured out, and then also have his part figured out, which is really cool. And the other thing he really enjoyed was talking with students. Within the first 5 minutes of being to the first church event we went to the day before we went to the schools, he instantly just downloaded a translator app and just started going around talking with people, which I found really cool, and things like that. So while teaching might not be my strong suit, I really enjoy playing games and playing sports and stuff, as I mentioned earlier. And that was an aspect I really got into with the kids and stuff there. Their 2 favorite sports are soccer and volleyball, which luckily are my 2 favorite sports. So I was having a blast. Had a lot of fun playing with them. And we did some games and stuff during lessons, which might not have been Judah's cup of tea necessarily, but I really enjoyed doing them and liked playing them with them. So it was really cool showing the strengths and weaknesses that kind of just meshed. My team, I think, was perfectly put together by God, with my strengths being Judah's weaknesses and vice versa, and then Genesis filling out the gaps, making sure that everything we did was translated well to the kids and transferred very well. And so very glad that God provided that for us. And yeah, thank you guys.
All right, so this is my 3rd year going to Honduras, and I have loved going each and every year due to the relationships that we get to build with these students. I find it similar to Noah. I went to the Dominican Republic when I was in elementary middle school, and I loved doing that, but we didn't get to spend as much time with the people there, and we were in a lot bigger groups. Plus, I have the ambition to become a teacher, so this trip has always appealed to me a little bit more than it did to Noah. And I just have really loved getting to know the students. The first year and the second year that I went, I had the privilege of teaching the same class, which was really cool. This year, unfortunately, I was not able to teach the same class as there were seniors this year. I ended up with 1 10th grade classes, which was a really cool experience. Because the 10th graders, some of them may have gone to our elementary school program, but the high school program is so different in just many different ways, that it's just really cool to introduce them to the program and also like be the first like person to get to influence them and as they enter high school. My favorite thing is just coming back to the schools and the people that I taught for the past 2 years. I mean, they've only seen me a total of 8 times, but they still come, like they find me and they come say hi to me. They remember my name. I get to play a lot of volleyball with them because I love to play volleyball. And one of the students from the 12th grade class that I had been teaching the past 2 years, I've got to see his English develop. And I have a little bit of Spanish. It's not great, but it does do a little bit. But his English was so helpful and crucial in figuring out like different volleyball things. He'd randomly look at me and he'd like make eye contact with me, and they're like, oh shoot, something happened. Some kid wants me to do this, or because like all the other kids would go talk to him, and be like, tell the Americans this, or tell the Americans that, move them around, tell them they need to do this better, or cover this area, or this is where the outline is. My favorite thing was when we came back on the 4th day and they helped us make volleyball outlines, because we had been confused. Like, they know where all like the out of bounds stuff is, but we are like, I don't know. It's a giant dirt patch. Like, where should I get that ball? Should I not get that ball? So that was really cool. They helped us make those so we could all play better as a group. With my 10th grade class this year, I had the privilege of having 2 teaching partners as well as an interpreter. So I taught with Miss Tam, or Olivia, and then I also got to teach with Alessia, which is really cool because I didn't know Alessia very well, but I got to know her a lot more through the trip. And then we had a really awesome interpreter. His name was Rodrigo. And the past 2 years, I'd also had the same interpreter, but she didn't come back this year. Her name was Esther. And we loved Esther, and she was always so good at keeping control of the class and explaining everything to them and keeping them engaged. And I was really nervous going into this year with the interpreter situation because I knew she wasn't going to be there because she has graduated herself now. But Rodrigo did so well. As Noah had mentioned as well, the 5-minute speech, they're going after you say one sentence. He was so good at that, but then he was also really good at coming back and being like, so this is what I said. So we weren't repeating things a whole lot, and there was a lot of good communication. And he just worked really well with our teaching group. So I got to see God work there with all the pairing up. But yeah, this year my class was also a lot bigger. We had 25, which was about double the size of the class I was used to teaching. But they were all so sweet, and they were funny, and they had such a good time. They loved, I could see some of their true engagement in our lessons we were teaching, which was really cool, because they're not always engaged, even at high school level. They're just kind of like, oh, they're coming, and they're talking at us again, I had the privilege of leading the final lesson at the end of the week, which I tried to make as interactive as possible, and it was really cool to just kind of see them open up a little bit and talk to us more about them and what they're going through and how we can pray for them. And see kind of like class clowns and stuff like that just settle down a little bit. And one of our favorite students was Adon. He was he lit up the classroom. He was making everyone laugh. One of the funnier things was he really took to the crafts. We don't always have the boys of the classes enjoy the crafts as much, but he was helpful even because Miss Tam's Spanish is actually really good. But she could help people figure out crafts and stuff. But whenever she was busy or Rodrigo was busy and everyone else was busy, Adon was just walking around to his classmates helping them out. And then so the fact that he speaks fluent Spanish, helps a little bit too. But it was so cool to just watch the class this year, get to know all of them, play Uno with them. They love playing Uno, which is nice for me because I don't even know any Spanish. I just have to know the 4 colors and, and Uno, it works out well. But yeah, I just love the relationships I can build and how they keep building as I keep going back.
Hello, everybody. So I am going to share something on Alessia's behalf because she was unfortunately not able to be here today. So she was teaching the 10th grade class alongside Becca and Olivia. And of course had Rodrigo as their interpreter. Now I've met Rodrigo, I think just last year. He's a great guy. He's very outgoing, very expressive. He's a fun guy to be around. So Alessia wanted to share a certain situation that happened in their class that was both a challenge to Rodrigo, but also a, she ended it off with a reminder that of just how things can work out. So I'm just going to share some of what she wrote down here. I'll probably just read it word for word. So, okay. This was Alessia's first year going to Honduras. She didn't know what to expect from her class. She told me her expectations were very well exceeded in the best way possible. She said most of the kids in her class were ready to learn and listen, and they were very attentive for the most part, except for a small group of boys in the corner, as is typical for a larger class. So she said this group of boys was occasionally losing focus. There was a couple of them that were whispering between each other. And Alessia was saying she didn't notice a lot of this, but Rodrigo was paying attention to it very well. I heard a couple stories about him setting some very clear rules at the beginning of his week for the class. So he likes to set a standard for the kids there. So when it was time for Alessia to share her testimony, she said there was a couple more of them had started, whispering things or making gestures to each other and whatnot. So Rodrigo noticed this, and one sec here. So Rodrigo noticed this and apparently asked the boy to step out of the class, the one that was causing most of these issues. And he had mentioned before this that something he struggled with was just having a short temper with the kids there, that he didn't have a lot of patience for them dilly-dallying and messing around. So he had enough with the one boy in the class that was causing some issues and asked him to step out. And then I guess he talked to that boy. I'm still reading this. I haven't had a chance to read through it all the way yet. So, Alessia says that as they had stepped out, Rodrigo and this boy, to have a talk about the behavior, she said that she was praying for him, that he would be able to be patient with this kid, and show him God's love even through a form of like a rebuke or a correction, I guess. And so Rodrigo, I remember, actually shared about this himself in our sharing time after one of the school days. And he had mentioned that he didn't want to keep the kid out of the classroom, even though he was causing a lot of issues. He didn't want to hinder that boy from hearing about the Word of God. He said he knew that was more important than any of the distractions that could have been caused. So I remember him sharing, he said he wanted to call one of the principals from the school over to have the boy removed from the class, but then in a short moment decided against that because he wanted the boy to be able to stay in the class and hear the gospel. After all of this, he got the boy back to the classroom, at which point he was much more respectful after a more one-on-one kind of interaction there. So then he was able to stay in the class for the rest of the week, and Rodrigo was able to exercise a patience with him that was certainly a challenge and a growth opportunity for himself. So she wanted to share that the story wasn't, it's not so much about the story as it is about how God was still working in our lives as well as the kids' lives, and how she was very happy to see that something she had prayed for turned out very well there in the classroom. So, yeah. Now, on my side of the classroom, I was teaching 11th grade this year. This was the first time I've had the opportunity to come back to the same class I was with the previous year. So the first 2 years I went on this trip, I was with a new 10th grade class. Now that always comes with its challenges because they're not always used to us. They haven't all been acquainted with us in the elementary schools, or some of them have, and like Becca was saying, it's a different situation in the high school. So I had the unique opportunity this year to move up with the 10th grade class from last year. So I was with them in 11th grade this year. Excuse me. So something I was very excited about this year, I've been doing my Duolingo, I've been practicing my Spanish, and I was able to hold a couple of sort of steady conversations with the kids in the classroom, which was really awesome for me because I, more than anything, appreciate being able to talk to them without having to have an interpreter. Our interpreter's name was Sergio. He's very different from Rodrigo. He's not the type to start any kind of conflict or any kind of correction. He was very much go with the flow of the class, and, you know, I would have to point something out if he was going to say it. So it was interesting. It was a different dynamic than what I've been used to. And having a small class was a blessing because it's a lot easier to share with a smaller group, and it definitely felt more personal. But at the same time, when you have one or two kids that aren't paying attention, it feels like half the class. And so that's a bit of a what is it? A pro and a con in itself. So I came into this year with fairly high expectations for hopefully quickly connecting with the kids, because obviously some of them would remember me from last year. Last year I was teaching with Phil. This year I was teaching with Kyle from West Shore Church. So a lot of the kids did remember me, but it felt almost the same as last year in like just it was a new year. It wasn't a perfect continuation of last year. So there was still a lot of like recapping to do, you know. And so I was really happy that by the end of the week, as always, we were able to connect really well with the kids, but it took longer than I had hoped it would this year. And I was praying about it a lot while I was there. I was really hoping God would open their hearts quicker than usual, but it didn't go that way. And that's okay, because about by the third day, which is somewhat typical, we did get some of them to open up and share about some of the struggles they were having. This part is interesting because last year, these kids were brand new to the high school. Some of them had been saved, some of them had not. And so last year on the final day, we were able to pray a salvation prayer with everybody. And so that whole class accepted Jesus last year. So I remember this, and so coming into this year, I knew they had all been saved. But there was still a little bit of unsurety in their faith, and a little bit of obviously struggles because, you know, it's faith. It's not easy. And so this year, some of them had actually shared that they had been going to church consistently, and that some of them were having some struggles within their church groups or within their friend groups, either judging them for not going to church, or some of their churches were having internal issues. And so that was like a bittersweet moment for me, because I was happy to see that they had grown into attending church consistently, which they hadn't been doing previously. But then also sorry to hear that they were having, you know, these deeper issues. So it was a good thing to see that their faith had grown. Yet still sad to see that they almost seemed too connected with their churches. And so with Kyle, I was able to orient the lessons a little more towards taking ownership of their faith. Our lessons were originally about Saul and his conversion to Paul. So we'd started out with just a reminder that God can really work with anybody, no matter what we've done. But then beyond that, we were able to talk about how looking at Jesus as the perfect example can sometimes be almost a little hard to achieve. Like, we know we can't achieve the perfection that Jesus showed through his life, but we can look at Paul, who is a fairly good example of following Jesus, as something that we can achieve. So we looked at some of the rest of his life and his ministry as a way that we could live our lives achievably, like something we could achieve and stick to. So that was a blessing that we were able to talk about that, and overall had a great time there. So.
Okay, so I got to teach 12th grade this year, which was the class that I originally had taught when we went 2 years ago. And it was really cool just to see the growth of that class. When we first went in 10th grade, they were very quiet and very, like, they didn't interact very much. And I think that they were like that a little bit last year, too. I didn't teach them, but I heard that they were like that. And then this year, I just saw, like, how much they opened up more to us and would answer our questions and interact in the lessons and like genuinely seemed interested in learning. I had the privilege of working with Maria, who also went last year, and we had talked about before going on this trip, or when we got there, doing like a kind of sharing time where we let them tell a little bit about them and struggles they've dealt with, and also like when they accepted Christ and what their walk with Christ has looked like. And so we did that on, I think it was Wednesday, so our third day there. We spent our entire morning lesson time and afternoon lesson time and didn't get through all the questions we were going to go through with them. So all of them shared, and like they were all really genuine about it, and you could tell that like they genuinely were like hard circumstances that they had gone through, which is super eye-opening for me too, because like we don't deal with the kind of struggles that they do in Honduras. Like a lot of them have lost like family members from shootings, or like one of the kids' sisters had a bullet in her head and somehow miraculously is still alive. But like we just don't really deal with that kind of stuff most of the time here. And so that was just, that kind of thing was eye-opening for us. And then also me and Maria connected like a lot with the class this year, which I was super happy about. And I love this class. This has been my class. I mean, I had them the first year, so I was always like super attached to them. And then last year I had a different class that I wasn't familiar with. And then I was, but they still like remembered me. And then this year I got to teach them again, which I really loved. And then I just love working with this team. It's so hard to say goodbye to them on the last day when we come home, because we grow so close to them during our time there, and just get to experience so much. Like, it's hard to be in Honduras. It's super fun and super rewarding, but it's also very exhausting and very hard in many ways. And so it's super amazing to just have the support from this wonderful team. And I love coming back with them every year and getting to know them better and getting to have conversations with them. It's such a blessing in so many ways. Yeah. And then, so a couple other things I did in my class that were super cool. We did cultural exchange, which we do every year. And this year was probably my favorite year of cultural exchange ever. The first day we did Uno, which they absolutely loved. That's one of the only games I can play without communicating with them, because I pretty much know the colors in Spanish. That is like the extent of my Spanish, though. So we played that with them, and then we did food exchange. So we brought like very large amount of snacks from home, a little bit too much because we ran out of time. And then they brought snacks, and we exchanged it, and we got to try some of the stuff they have, and then we got to let them try our stuff. And it was really funny to see some of their reactions to some of the stuff we gave them. I think the funniest one was we gave them warheads. They liked them, but their faces were very funny. Yeah, and then we also played, this wasn't cultural exchange, but we played Ninja the very first day to like kind of break the barrier and like make it not awkward. And they had a blast with that. We almost played it again because they were so into it. Yeah, and I just love going on this trip every year. It's super cool to see how God works in all of our lives and also the lives of the students, and to see how the students have grown throughout the years. That's one of my favorite things. And yeah.
All right, I'm going to try to not keep this super long. I think I could probably talk here all day about this trip. My name is Elsa Carroll, if you guys haven't met me. That's my sister Lydia. This is the second time I've gotten to go with her, which has been really special. So this was my third time on this trip. I've been to the high school every year, and I've actually been with the same class each year. So that was really, really special, especially coming back this year. A unique thing is that I had 12th grade this year, and I am going into my 12th grade year of high school. And so each year we've been in the same grade, and the ages range a little bit, but the same grade in school, which is really unique. And 12th grade is a big year because we're heading out into the real world after this. And so one thing Philip had mentioned earlier, but Pastor Quay said at the beginning of our trip was we get to build the relationships with these kids, but we also have a gift where we're coming in for a little bit of time, and we can really speak with boldness. Sometimes they are in a church setting, and they need somebody coming outside, like from somewhere else, who can really like say something with passion and something they really believe. And that was a new thing for me this year. I felt like my confidence in God and in the things I was teaching was like 10 times better than it was these past years, which was super, super cool. So I just want to tell you guys about Thursday. It was a roller coaster, to say the least. So my class, we had taken some notes from Arabelle, and we started the morning, well, first we were talking about Paul and Saul, so I got chucked across the room and stoned with ping pong balls to show that Paul was stoned. That really woke them up, got the juices flowing, and they were like, whoa, okay, here we go. So then I got to share my testimony again, which was super special because these past few years I've gotten to share things I'm struggling with, and I was super honest with them, and like, I have a very boring testimony. Like there was no like Paul getting knocked off a horse moment for me. God has always been a part of my life, but I got to share like what that has done in my life and in me, and how because my parents chose faithfulness, this is the opportunity, and this is like how I have grown up, and got to kind of share the hope that Christ has for us, and even if it's not now, like it's gonna come, and he wants to bless us, and kind of got to share that and bring it full circle with this class. So I shared mine, and then Ashley, my wonderful teaching partner who isn't here today, she shared hers, and I mean, both times she shared parts of her testimony, she had kids crying. We had a lot of girls, so that was just part of what happened, but her story really connected with some of those kids. So we both shared our testimonies, and our interpreters volunteered to share theirs. And then we flipped the script on them, and we had been talking about Paul and the trials and tribulations in his life. And so we said, you guys say that you're Christians. We've talked to them. How has God shown up for you? Like share, it can be a small thing, it can be a big thing, but where have you seen him in your lives? And if you're still struggling, like tell us where you're at so we can pray for you when we're back in the United States. And the stories we heard were powerful. I mean, they were hard. Like Arba had said, these kids have been through hard things. Some things are very relatable, some things aren't, and that's hard because we don't always know how to help. But we got to talk to each one and pray with them, and that was just incredible. But this has all happened before 12 o'clock, and I was getting very sick. So each year something has come up and got me. It's always rough. I don't know if it's the food or if it's the humidity. I don't know. I had a very cold classroom. We had air conditioning, which is a blessing, but also when you go from like 98 degrees in humidity to like really cold, it's like not great. Your body's like can't figure out what to do. So I was getting really sick. I almost had to run out and throw up a couple times. Like it was nauseous, it was dizzy, headache, fever, all the things. So we were able to, like, I got through the morning, I go back to our lunchroom, I'm like in the fetal position on the floor, like trying not to throw up, and Olivia, my new favorite human, comes running in, and she was like, Elsa, what's wrong? Like, are you okay? And I was like, I think I'm gonna throw up, and so she gave me like Pepto-Bismol, and I like took one, and I was like, not helping, like I'm gonna lose it. So she was like, I'm gonna pray for you, like what hurts? And I was like, well, my stomach, like, I'm so nauseous. And when I get nauseous, I get, like, head nauseous, too, like, just everything. So she puts her hands on me and starts praying. And by the time she finishes, I was like, I'm not nauseous. So what happened? So then she was like, okay, well, what else? And I was like, well, I'm, like, achy top to bottom. Like, when you get a fever, your body, like, just hurts. So she prayed for my aches and my pains, and she finished, and like I could literally feel it going away. And I was like, this is crazy. So then I was like, well, like my career, am I gonna get married? Like, what's happening? So then we're laughing, and she was like, I mean, anything else? And I was like, well, I'm crying right now. Like, I was overwhelmed. There was a lot happening in my class and here, and I have a really bad headache. Like, my head is just pounding. So she prayed for me again, and that all went away. And so in like a matter of minutes, I went from like laying on the floor in tears to I sat up and I ate some food, and I was able to go to the bathroom. And on the way back, actually, she prayed for me again, and I was like, I just feel wiped. Like, I'm just weak. I don't have strength. So I was like, just pray for strength. And she did. And like by the time we had walked back to our lunchroom, I was like, I feel better than when I woke up this morning. Like, this is crazy. And so I actually got to go back and tell my kids about that. And our interpreter had a crazy thing happen during lunch too. But that was it was such a cool experience. People ask what the low of my trip was, and I would never say it was getting sick, because if I hadn't gotten sick, Olivia wouldn't have gotten to pray for me, and I wouldn't have gotten to like experience a miracle happen in my body and like feel it happen. So that was one of the biggest highlights of my trip, and I was able to go back and finish the afternoon with my kids, and we saw some really powerful things happen. We saw God move in some really powerful ways, and even though I speak maybe 2 words of Spanish, you could see like in their eyes when something clicked. So whether it was when we're sharing the gospel and we kept coming at it from different angles to try and like get the message through to them, when it clicked, you could see it. And with these kids, you could see the weights just fall off their back. So I'm gonna share one story. I had a girl, and like earlier in the week we had talked about this ironically, but her parents weren't married when she was born, and they split, and they have always provided for her financially, and she lives with an aunt, and she's never needed anything, but she's never felt loved. And she always wonders why she wasn't good enough to keep her parents together. Like, why is it her, like, she feels like it's her fault that didn't work. And the family that she has had has been her class and growing up with them. And her parents just told her that they're sending her to the U.S. to go to school, and she hadn't told her classmates that yet. And so she was about to be ripped away from her family, like the people she knew and she had grown up with. And just seeing the raw emotion, and like just life was hard and it's unfair, and the people that have shown up for her are not going to be there anymore. And she hadn't told them that yet. So we met one-on-one with her. But just hearing stories like that, and then being able to pray over her and just give her some of the truth from the scriptures was incredible. And so I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was just my class. And I think it was really unique that I've gotten to see like the long-term impact of this. So being here all 3 years, I saw like the progression that they've made and where they stand in their faith. So that's my story. It was absolutely incredible. The team back here was amazing. I got to know some of them really, really well, and like I could not have done it without them. So, yeah.
So after the service, Olivia is going to be up here. No, I'm kidding. All right, I do believe it was spiritual, and I do believe it was the timing. But anyhow, I know we're running a little long. I did want to just do a little sharing myself. Kind of like Forrest, I do not teach when I go. This year, I, with the help of my husband, wrote the Bible lessons and did a lot of the hard work on this side of it. So kind of going on the trip is my is my ability to see what all comes from it. Most of these kids have been with me for 3 years, so I love seeing their boldness. I love them looking at them and saying, getting questions like, okay, you're talking about heaven and accepting Jesus, but what happens if I don't? And them looking at them and saying, there's a real place called hell. And the kids looking at them and going, my church doesn't talk like that, And I see the boldness and I see the joy. I mean, even the younger kids, I don't get to see them as much, but their stories are awesome. And like you said, they just meld together. So this is kind of like I don't say reward might not be the right word, but that's kind of my victory lap is going to watch them. So I don't teach. I don't get the one-on-one relationships with them. But my really, really cool experience this year, what God gifted me with in all of it was at Christmas time, I told my family what I wanted for Christmas was a compassion child. I've had some when I was a kid. It's just something I really love. Noah got me a container, and it had envelopes and stamps, had all this kind of stuff on it that I could do. So what no one has really talked about yet, which is still fine, is we go to a compassion church the first 2 days. The first day we work with their Awana group with all their little kids, and then the afternoon we go back and work with their youth group. And it's always been such a sweet time. It's kind of gets you dipped into the culture and being with people. So I knew I could sponsor someone from there, but I didn't know how. And I kept going back and forth. I was calling compassion centers. They were like, well, yes, this girl's available, but she's with some concert. You go to concert series and you can sponsor. So, everything happened. So I kind of partially gave up on it. And then in May, I think it kind of spruced to my heart again. So I went on the compassion site. The center actually has like a code. So I put the code in, and 6, 8 kids showed up. I was so excited. I went and told Olivia, I was like, look, there's kids and they're available. And the one that the pastor had recommended for me, Abigail, was there. So I was very excited, was able to sponsor Abigail, but then also thought, maybe someday Isaac will come with us, who knows? And there was a boy who's born in September. He's 1 year younger than Isaac, and he also loves soccer just like Isaac. So we sponsored 2. So then the next trip was trying to get me to be able to see these kids, maybe potentially. Of course, they need 4 months in advance to get this. Well, I already was out of it. So I talked to a couple people, and they basically said, if he shows up for the Awana program, you'll get to see them. So I'm a little bit of a photographer, so I may admit I wore something that I'd get a picture with, so I'd want to put it on my wall or something. I did all the precautionary things. And we walked in, and I was on radar. I literally had his picture on my phone. I went up to Rebecca, and I was like, Becca, I think I found him. And Becca's like, yeah, that looks like him and 5 other kids. And I'm like, man, you're not helping me. He's really not encouraging, Becca. So then finally, Devora, one of the teachers, I used my broken Spanish and a picture, and she was like, yeah, that's Ian, that's your boy. And I tell you, it was just the best gift ever. I know I'm a mom of 4, but now I'm a mom of 6. Thank you, and more, who knows. But he was just the sweetest child, and she brought him a chair. She talked to him. He sat next to me. We went through his Bible lesson together. He answered questions. He was adorable and sweet. At the end, I brought a book bag, and I bought him some school supplies and things like that. And we have pictures with all of them. And so I didn't get to see Abigail on Saturday, but the gift of seeing Ian was awesome. And then as we were leaving Awana program, the pastor came up to me through a translator and said, Abigail should be here tomorrow for church. Her parents attend here, or her mom attends here. So that was a little different experience, but still, her mom brought her to church that day. You'll see in the pictures, it was actually an award day where these kids got their first Bibles, and we got to be a part of it. So you'll see, I think I have 2, but literally each child got a Bible, and they got a photo op with the next sponsor or the next missionary from America. It was like everyone had their little picture taken. And I got to meet her mom, and I got to just talk with her a little bit. And then she also has 2 siblings. So I do have a picture. You'll see it eventually come up where it's our family with Ian. I didn't put Abigail in there. I was trying to share the time with everybody. But just such a neat time. I mean, I feel like our communications now and our letters and our writings are going to be so much different. So that was the gift that God gifted me all amongst all these other great things. So the last thing we are going to share, I know we're over, is a video. I put it together. It will start off at the Compassion Church. You'll see us running around playing games. It'll go into our church, of course. You'll see the kids get their Bibles. The church family there just loves on us. So you'll see a whole picture of the church family there. Then we literally drive 2 hours away to Morazan. It's awesome because now we're in the country. I know many of us are just like, the mountains. Like, we all wanted to go hiking. And so you'll see the schools. I do break it up to elementary and high school. You'll see their activities, their chalk. You'll see cultural exchanges and food and dramas and games. Actually, no one shared our new favorite game. Man. So there's a game you'll see. It's called Aromaya, and they taught it to us after we taught them Ultimate Frisbee. It's kind of like, so you have a ring, and then you have a pole on this end and a pole on this end, and your team has to get that ring and chuck it up and get it on the pole. But other than that, there's really no rules. So call it like rugby. I'm playing volleyball the one time, and Olivia came up to me. She's like, I just got knee in the head. I thought you should know. Bye. And then she went and kept playing. So you'll see some Elsa and poor Isabella, our translator, and they ripping things out. And then you'll see Adan, who actually shows you how to like score. But yeah, so there's all kinds of things on there. So I can't explain it all. And I know we cannot share the amusement park ride with you from Honduras because you've just never seen it. So hopefully you got a glimpse of what we did. But enjoy the video. I know they haven't seen it yet, so I get to enjoy watching them watch it. So thank you.